Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Rachel Burden and Charlie State.
Our headlines today, almost morning, it's Thursday the 1st of July. Our top story today, after more than 2 years behind bars, the American actor and comedian Bill Cosby has been released from prison.
Judges at the highest court in Pennsylvania overturned his conviction for sexual assault, ruling the 83-year-old should be freed because the correct legal processes hadn't been followed. Michelle Fleury has this report. The clothing retailer Gap has announced it's closing all 81 of its stores in the UK and Ireland and will trade only online.
Ben Boulos is outside the company's flagship store on the programme.
The Japanese car maker Nissan is due to confirm a major expansion of its Sunderland plant this morning, creating thousands of jobs locally.
It's expected that a new factory will be built, capable of producing more than 100,000 batteries for electric vehicles every year by 2024.
And Nina is there. Dozens of people have died in Western Canada during an unprecedented heat wave that's lasted almost a week.
Cities across the northwest of the US are also experiencing the intense heat, which President Biden has blamed on climate change. Here's our science editor, David Shukman. And we will talk to a couple of Brits over in Canada about what it's just like out there at the moment, how they're managing with the heat before 7 o'clock this morning. Now, in other news, the number of migrants crossing the Channel by boat in the first half of this year has more than doubled compared with the same period last year.
Almost 6,000 people have made the journey since January. Meanwhile, this last month of June saw a record number for a single month, with more than 2,000 people making the crossing. Simon Jones has this report.
The NHS has been given the green light to roll out a booster vaccine programme this autumn. A COVID certificate, which aims to ease travelling between EU countries, has been launched today. Voters will head to the polls in a parliamentary by-election in the West Yorkshire seat of Batley and Spen today. It was held. Of course, we're expecting results at some stage in the morning tomorrow, so we'll bring you that here on Breakfast tomorrow morning.
Time now just come up to 6:15 Thursday morning. That means Carol has got the weather for us today. Good morning, Carol. Thanks, Carol. See you later on.
Now, Princes William and Harry will come together today to unveil a statue of their mother, Princess Diana, on what would have been her 60th birthday.
It will be the first time the brothers have seen each other since the funeral of their grandfather, the Duke of Edinburgh, amid reports of a family rift. Our royal correspondent Daniela Relf has this report.
And actually, there's quite a lot of talk in the papers this morning about whether the rift between the brothers has been healed. The Daily Mail this morning is suggesting that they have had text conversations, in particular about that England result over Germany the other night in the football. So maybe football will be the thing that bridges them. Who knows?
Let's have a look at some of the other papers now. Front page.
On it all. I noticed that Wayne Rooney and his missus are going on a canal boat holiday. Did you see this? They've grabbed themselves, according to the
Ship, Rachel, you know, there's only ever one captain on the ship.
Well, Charlie, I'm not going to argue with you on that one.
I draw your attention to this story, which is the song Caroline Did.
There must be something about the perfect formula for a song and crowd singing that works. Because it does. Because even the most tuneless football fan can belt out Sweet Caroline.
Simple. That's why, isn't it? Simple.
Probably.
One of those ones. It just works like that. You can try it with the Marcia. It just doesn't work.
No.
In your head, not out loud.
No, not on the sofa.
6:21.
Now, your washing machine or fridge or TV could last another 10 years or so, thanks to a new law which comes into force today.
It's all about manufacturers being forced to make spare parts available so that appliances can be fixed instead of heading straight to the tip. Our Consumer Affairs correspondent, Coletta Smith, is in a waste recycling centre on Merseyside to tell us more this morning. Coletta, this is a really interesting story. Who hasn't had an occasion where they wanted to mend something and lo and behold, no parts available? So what are you going to do next?
Thank you so much, Coletta. We had this recently, Charlie. You know, the hinge went on our fridge door. So called up the company, said it just, you know, it needs a new part, that's all. And they wouldn't do that. They insisted on bringing a whole new fridge, which was crazy. They said it wasn't worth the cost of the repair. So that may change. But if you have any patched up appliances, things that you've repaired over and over again that you want to share with us, we'd love to see them. bbcbreakfast@bbc.co.uk or at BBC Breakfast on Twitter.
Is it the most open door in the house, do you think, the fridge door? Probably is, isn't it?
Well, yeah, particularly at the moment with so many children self-isolating, yes.
Time now to get the news, travel and weather where you are. Hello, this is Breakfast with Rachel Burden and Charlie State.
Coming up this morning,
Millions of people could be given a coronavirus booster jab to protect against new variants, with over 50s and the clinically vulnerable being prioritised.
Now, this plan would be for it to roll out alongside the flu jab in September. There's a question about whether GP surgeries can cope with the increased workload. So let's speak to Dr. Farden Finn, who is from the JCVI a bit later. And we're also going to talk to Callum Semple about this whole issue of the definition of COVID symptoms at the moment. He's an attendee of SAGE.
Yeah, we have a lot of expertise joining us this morning, so that's coming up throughout the programme.
And then there's Mike.
6:46 is the time now.
American entertainer Bill Cosby has left prison after his conviction for sexual assault was overturned by the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania.
The 83-year-old had served more than 2 years of his sentence at a state prison near Philadelphia. Let's get more on this now from Entertainment Report in Los Angeles for us this morning.
We're going to find out about the extreme weather in Canada in just a moment, but with the weather back home, first of all. Carol, what's going on? Morning.
Good morning. Go, and can I just ask you, Carol, we're going to catch up with the family in Canada in a moment. The temperatures there are so extreme.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, let's talk more about that now and speak to Richard and Sarah Burton, both British, but have visit there at the moment. Obviously, it's evening time. It must feel a little bit cooler, but describe what the heat feels like. Children having to go to school through all of this? Have you been doing anything at all to keep cool? What works best in Alberta, in Canada?
Time now to get the news, travel and the weather where you are. Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Rachel Burden and Charlie State.
Our headlines today, Good morning, it's Thursday the 1st of July. Our top story today, after more than 2 years behind bars, the American actor and comedian Bill Cosby in prison.
Judges at the highest court in Pennsylvania overturned his conviction for sexual assault, ruling the 83-year-old should be freed because the correct legal processes hadn't been followed. Michelle Fleury has this report.
The clothing retailer Gap has announced it's closing all 81 of its stores in the UK and Ireland and will only trade now online.
Ben Boulos is outside the company's flagship store. It's on London's.
The Japanese car maker Nissan is due to confirm a major expansion of its Sunderland plant this morning, creating thousands of jobs locally.
It is expected that a new factory will be built capable of producing more than 100,000 batteries for electric vehicles every year to 2024.
Really, really big move for them. So Now, Princes William and Harry will today unveil a statue of their mother, Diana, Princess of Wales, at Kensington Palace on what would have been her 60th birthday.
It will be the first time the brothers have seen each other since the funeral of their grandfather, Duke of Edinburgh. That, of course, was in April. Let's speak now to our royal correspondent.
Now, a COVID certificate which aims to ease travelling and all the restrictions around it between EU countries has been launched today.
The document has a QR code which shows whether someone has been vaccinated, recovered from the virus or has had a recent negative test result.
I'm joined now by our foreign correspondent. Well, how do these certificates work? But also, will people in the UK be able to use them? And his pet dog has been the scourge of posties for decades, but the Royal Mail is still honouring Dennis the Menace with a set of stamps.
All of those events, I feel like I should have known.
Well, we're going to talk to the man who illustrates him before 8 o'clock this morning. And every person who illustrated Dennis the Menace was called David for years until Nigel came along.
Really? Really?
Little known fact.
Yeah, didn't know that. Didn't know that. 7:13. Carol's got the weather for us right now. Looking ahead a couple of days. How's things, Carol? We'll see you then. Thank you very much. Time now is 7:15. Let's go back to one of our main stories. A big talking point at the moment. The NHS has been given the green light to start planning a COVID vaccine booster programme in the UK ahead of this winter. Not everyone will be eligible, but anyone aged over 50 or younger people who usually qualify for the flu jab will be offered another COVID vaccine from September. Let's speak more about this, Professor.
7:21 now. All eyes will be on Princes William and Harry later today as they come together to unveil a statue of their mother, Princess Diana, on what would have been her 60th birthday.
So the two brothers will be together, but their once close relationship, we know, is maybe damaged by some of the revelations Prince Harry has made in his interview with the talk show host Oprah Winfrey.
So there's a possibility maybe that today will signal some kind of end to the conflict. Well, let's ask royal author and 2 o'clock is the official unveiling. So no doubt you will see pictures on the BBC News channel a little bit later on today when they emerge.
7:27 the time now. That means it's time to get the news, the travel and the weather where you are. Hello, this is Breakfast with Rachel Burden and Charlie State.
Now, many of us have been longing for a holiday abroad, but travel restrictions have brought real uncertainty to our summer plans.
So from today, travel between EU countries will be made easier with the introduction of a COVID certificate. That will prove a negative test or vaccine status. But what does that mean for us here in the UK? Breakfast's Graham Satchell has been finding out.
Well, let's take a look at what the latest rules are for some popular holiday destinations. Well, I hope you got your heads around all of that. For more on the travel and leisure situation, we've got Simon Calder.
Yes, Chief Executive of Nottingham Playhouse. Morning to you, Stephanie. I just wonder, what can you tell us about how all of this is affecting you trying to get your business back up together? Passports, what do people have to prove to come to your theatre? It proved that individual countries within Europe are making decisions about us. That you know, one country will say you can come, another will say you can't come. So
Absolutely.
the European-wide notion may be tricky ultimately.
Well,
We're hoping that theatre goers are bold and desperate to get back into the theatres. I'm just wondering also about any lingering restrictions and social distancing that might be required, even if you're allowed to open to capacity. I think you'd probably like to see the end of masks if possible. Do you think that would be safe, Stephanie?
So let's turn our attention to events at Wimbledon last night. And Mike, a small number of people can make a lot of noise.
yes.
I mean, maybe our
Very
next
smooth,
guest,
Mike, very smooth.
Our next guest may be rifling through Pat Nevin's record collection. It's all changed on BBC Radio 1. Yesterday, DJ Nick Grimshaw announced he's leaving the station after 14 years.
So a new presenting duo are taking over the drive time slot. That's Jordan North and Vic Hope will be stepping in the studio. That's starting in September.
Jordan North, the phone's on 5 Live, and look at where you are now. It's an absolutely fantastic move for you. I think probably changed for you, didn't it, with I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, which you yourself have said you were...
Charlie here, love it, well done. And can I just ask, we were talking to Pat Nevin there about AHA, although it wasn't actually on his back. We thought it was. Will AHA get a look in on the new show? Do you think ever?
I don't think we'll be playing that. That radio
Things. It's so, you know, that's good. It's ruled out, and that's good. If you would describe the vibe, and I know you've just probably thinking about it now, how do you think your drive? What will be the vibe around it? Do you think? What will be the atmosphere in your place? Is it all? You have music on? What happens in the Jordan house in the morning? You got loud music on? What 8 and 8:30 when you watch BBC Breakfast every morning?
Of course.
That's the bit you missed. Is that because that's
Yeah.
yes? That's what I thought you'd missed.
that's what
I have to say, it's a very sociable time of the day to be working as well. So, yeah, you've picked yourself some nice hours there.
Oh, thank
Dennis the Menace, turning 70 this year. 70? And
Look
there
at
he
him
is.
in his different guises over the years, with extra family members as well. So, the occasion is being marked with a special set of stamps that have been made available with key images from his 7 decades of mischief and pranks in the Beano. Let's just take a look. Iconic, that black and red stripy top, isn't it? And there have been just 4 artists who've had the honour of illustrating Dennis's adventures in Beano, and the current one is Nigel. What, did you feel the sort of weight of responsibility when you took on this role of illustrating Dennis the Menace? Few iconic, recognisable images as much as that one, isn't there? Do stay with us, we've got the headlines coming up.
Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Rachel Burden and Charlie State.
Our headlines today. The UK. Good morning, it's Thursday, the 1st of July. Our top story then. There's been news of a jobs boost for the automotive industry this morning, with the Japanese car maker Nissan confirming a major expansion of its northeast of England plant.
A new electric model factory will be built, capable of producing more than 100,000 batteries for the vehicles every year by 2024, creating 1,600 jobs in Sunderland.
Well, Nina is there for us this morning. So, the American actor and comedian Bill Cosby has been released from prison after more than 2 years behind bars.
Judges at the highest court in Pennsylvania overturned his conviction for sexual assault, ruling the 83-year-old should be freed because the correct legal processes hadn't been followed. Michelle Fleury has this report.
Dozens of people have died in Western Canada during an unprecedented heatwave that's lasted almost a week. More than
The number of migrants crossing the channel by boat in the first half of this year has more than doubled compared with the same period last year.
That means almost 6,000 people have made the journey since January. Meanwhile, this last month of June saw a record number for a single month, with more than 2,000 people making the crossing. Simon Jones reports. The NHS has been given the green light to roll out a booster vaccine programme this autumn. Now, Princes William and Harry will today unveil a statue of their mother, Diana, Princess of Wales, at Kensington Palace on what would have been her 60th birthday.
It will be the first time the brothers have seen each other since the funeral of their grandfather, the Duke of Edinburgh, in April.
Let's speak to our royal correspondent outside Kensington Palace this morning.
Yes, let's have a chat with Carol about the weather. Just look at those pictures this morning for events in London, of course. It's looking maybe OK for them.
Yes, it is.
Well, there's a question at the moment. How do you actually know if you've got coronavirus? A continuous cough, a fever and a loss of taste and smell. They're the symptoms we've been told about pretty much all the way through this. And if you have those symptoms, then you should book a test if you develop them.
Scientists now say we should be adding to that official list. So,
these obvious ones, if you like, loss of taste and smell, temperature, continuous cough. But the symptoms of this virus have grown and varied so much over the last 18 months. How on earth do you keep on top of it all?
It's really...
List then. What are the obvious ones,
well,
as far as you're concerned?
There's a really good survey from University.
Listening closely to what you're saying this morning, because it appears to a degree to be at odds with the official government advice. So the official advice is you look for those, even as we sit here now in midsummer, maybe looking ahead to the autumn, you think about the number of people watching this programme now who are thinking, I've got a bit of a sniffle. My kids have got a bit of a sniffle. They're going back to school. That particular, that idea of some of the things you've mentioned could apply.
Schools are saying if you've got any kind of symptoms of being unwell at all, get a PCR test, which runs counter, or certainly the schools my children go to, which runs counter to the official NHS advice. But they are so keen to try and at least identify positive cases when they come up to try and protect the wider school population. But we do have this problem. My kids is now off school, back at home again. It seems to be a non-stop process of in and out. And this is becoming really problematic, particularly problematic for parents, low-income families. And we know it's having a big detrimental impact on children, particularly in deprived areas.
Bring us up to speed on where we are with vaccinating children, and children is your area of expertise. We're talking to those who are more vulnerable. In your head, how do you balance up the idea of a booster programme for the vulnerable and not yet vaccinating children, up to the age of 18?
We've looked really carefully.
Simple. Very pleased to see you here with us because we're very welcoming of
I
people
feel like putting
joining.
you in a box because I'm normally used to seeing you on a Zoom, aren't I?
It's very nice to be getting back to normal.
Let's see, 8:24 is the time now.
Your washing machine, your fridge or your telly could maybe last another 10 years or so, thanks to a new law which comes into force today.
So this is all about manufacturers being forced to make spare parts available so that appliances can be fixed instead of heading straight to the tip.
We want to hear about your successful repairs this morning, or maybe even your unsuccessful ones. You can get in touch
Why are
with
you pointing
at me? Charlie has a story. Well, you don't think you've ever repaired anything successfully, right?
No, I've thought about it quite a bit, and honestly, I don't think I have.
Well, you've got a couple more minutes to think about it, because we're going to go to our consumer affairs correspondent. One quick email from a viewer this morning. Phil tweeted this: my ex-wife had a fridge door with a door handle from a Mark I Ford Cortina to lock it because the seal had broken.
I think that might look quite stylish.
Yeah, I know. Being skinny, he says, makes you more resourceful. That's excellent.
Any other thoughts? Let us know. Time now to get the news, travel and weather where you are. Hello, this is Breakfast with Rachel Burden and Charlie State.
Now, Morning Live follows Breakfast on BBC One this morning. Gethin and Jeanette. Now, Princes William and Harry will come together today to unveil a statue of their mother, Princess Diana, on what would have been her 60th birthday.
It will be the first time the brothers have seen each other since the funeral of their grandfather, the Duke of Edinburgh, amid reports of a family rift. Our royal correspondent, Daniela Ralph, has this report. Seem to have one or two problems with the link there to Kensington Gardens. The actual unveiling itself taking place, we understand, around 2 p.m. this afternoon. But as Ahmed was just saying, it is essentially a private event. There will be cameras there, so we will get a sense of those who are there. But I think Carol's on standby with the weather for us right now. I don't know. I'm seeing, Carol, that the sun appears to be shining on in and around Kensington Palace this morning.
That's right. and Rachel.
It always does, doesn't it, Karen? It always does change, doesn't it?
Yes,
Isn't that
especially
what the
when you
weather
look that
does?
far. Yes, when you.
Now we know.
Well, that's
It could
a relief
change.
looking at that. It could change. It could change.
It could
Nothing
change.
is
It could
set in
change.
stone.
Thank you, Carol. 8:46.
Pleasure.
Now, there's been another major blow for the high street after the clothing retailer Gap announced plans to close all 81 of its stores in the UK and Ireland.
It means the company will continue to trade online and hasn't said how many of its staff will be affected by the plans.
Well, let's speak to the retail.
Time now is 8:49. Mike, so it can get very intimate, can't it? The player, the crowd, and that seemed to be something that was really happening. Andy Murray was literally looking at individuals in the crowd, and they were firing each other up.
It's going to be like that with Andy Murray. I'm trying to work out, Annabelle, whether for him it's just enough to be back in a Grand Slam competing or whether he seriously wants...
We were seeing some pictures of Shapovalov, and, he plays with a lot of passion too, doesn't he? I mean, he puts it all out there. So just in terms of those two personalities sharing that space, there's going to be a lot going on. Great competition. Annabelle, lovely to speak to you. We'll talk again soon. Thank you very much.
And you're watching BBC Breakfast. It's 8:59.
So news from the UK car industry this morning with confirmation the Japanese company Nissan is to build a new all-electric model and battery plant in the northeast of England.
So more than 1,600 jobs will be created in Sunderland and an estimated 4,500 in supply companies.
And Nina's there for us this morning. So, Nina, I understand they've been giving some more detail about just what this will mean in terms of jobs, in terms of the technology and everything they're going to be doing there. Thanks very much.
So we're going to be speaking to Jack Savoretti in a moment. But first, a last brief look at the headlines where you are this morning.
So lots of us may have spent lockdown wistfully reminiscing about great holidays from the past, and that included the singer Jack Savoretti. So he decided to try and capture some of that holiday mood with his new music.
And he's going to be here on the sofa with us in just a moment. So let's see if he managed to achieve that holiday vibe. Here's one of the singles from the new album Who's Hurtin' Who, featuring Nile Rodgers. So Jack's new album is called Europeana, available now. That's all from us today.
Yeah, we're back tomorrow. Normal time, 6 a.m. See you then.
See you
Bye-bye.
then.